Video presentation presented by Francisco Shella A. McCasling, Monica A. Palmerola, Phoebe Roselle, and Jalsa, St. Jerusalem S.
According to Nido Kevin, your present circumstances don't determine where you can go. They merely determine where you start. Good day everyone, I am Phoebe Rose Palmerola, and together with my groupmates, Shella Francisco, St. Jerusalem Shalsa, and Monica Macasling, we are going to discuss the disability categories. So let's start. Inclusive education gives opportunity to those students with disabilities to learn in a normal classroom. Education must be acquired by all individuals. The United Nations Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities recognizes the right to inclusive education for all persons with disabilities. So there are disability categories. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act requires public schools to provide free appropriate education to eligible students, but not every child who struggles in schools qualifies. So the following are the 13 categories of disabilities.
First in the category is Specific Learning Disorder or SLD. This condition affects a child's ability to read, to write, to listen, to speak, reason, or do math. According to American Psychiatric Association, an estimated 5 to 15,000 of school-age children struggle with a learning disability. An estimated of 50,000 of these learning disorders have impairment, including impairment in reading, so commonly known as dyslexia.
The second is other health impairment. It covers conditions that limit a child's strength, energy, or alertness. An example is ADHD, which impacts attention and executive function. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, or ADHD, is a neurodevelopmental disorder that most often occurs in children, but can also be diagnosed in adulthood. 42% increase in ADHD diagnosis over the past 8 years, according to Healthline.
Autism spectrum disorder or ASD is one of these categories. It is a developmental disability. ASD shows affects 1 in 68 children. Boys are nearly 5 times more likely than girls to be diagnosed with ASD. It involves a wide range of symptoms, but it mainly affects a child's social and communication skills.
Fourth is the emotional disturbance. It is various health issues fall under the emotional disturbance category. They may include anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and depression.
The next category is the speech or language impairment. This category covers difficulties with speech or language. So according to the National Information Center for Children and Youth with Disabilities, 1/4 of the students served in the public schools' special education programs. Almost 1 million children in the 1993 to 1994 school year were categorized as having a speech or language impairment. This speech difficulty must be characterized by an interruption in the flow of rhythm of speech, such as stuttering, which is called dysfluency.
The International Classification of Diseases 11/2018 classifies vision impairment in 2 groups: distance and near-presenting vision impairment. Distance vision impairment includes mild, moderate, severe, and blindness, while in the near vision impairment, it is near visual acuity worse than N6 or M.8 at 40 cm.
Seventh of the category is deafness. These are kids who can't hear most of all sounds, even with a hearing aid. From the study of WHO, over 1 million young adults at risk of permanent avoidable hearing loss due to unsafe listening practices. Over 5% of the world's population, or 430 million people, require rehabilitation to address their disabling hearing loss. 432 million adults and 34 million children. It is estimated that by 2050, over 700 people, or 1 in every 10 people, will have disabling hearing loss.
Next on the list is hearing impairment. The term hearing impairment refers to a hearing loss not covered by the definition of deafness. This type of loss can change over time. Hearing is relatively common among children. About 1.9% of children have trouble hearing, and permanent hearing loss is found in more than 1 out of every 1,000 children screened for hearing loss, whether or not they have symptoms, according to Shaurdayan 2020.
Ninth in the category is deaf blindness. Kids with diagnosis of deaf blindness have both severe hearing and vision loss. Children with deaf blindness have problems with seeing and hearing. Sometimes children are born with these problems or inborn disability, and sometimes problems appear in childhood days. Children who are deaf-blind will need to communicate and make friends with other people. Otherwise, there are risks that they might grow up feeling isolated. This is according to the Australian parenting website.
10th in the category is orthopedic impairment. It is when kids lack function or ability in their bodies. An example is cerebral palsy. From the website of Very Well Family, there are potential causes of orthopedic impairment: amputation, birth trauma, burns, cerebral palsy, disease like poliomyelitis, bone tuberculosis, fractures, genetic abnormality, for example, the absence of a member, clubfoot, and injury. Students with orthopedic impairments typically have the same cognitive abilities as their peers without disabilities. Because of this, school staff should try to include these students in mainstream classes as much as possible.
Next in the category is an intellectual disability. Kids with this type of disability have below average intellectual ability. They may also have poor communication, self-care, and social skills. Down syndrome is an example. According to the Centers for Disease and Control Prevention, CDC, intellectual disability can be caused by a problem that starts anytime before a child turns into 18 years old, even before birth. In the study by Special Olympics, approximately 6.5 million people in the United States have an intellectual disability. Approximately 1 or 3% of the global population has an intellectual disability, as many as 200 million people. The next on the list is traumatic brain injury. This is a brain injury caused by an accident or some kind of physical force. Traumatic brain injury, or TBI, is a form of non-degenerative acquired brain injury resulting from a bump, blow, or jolt to the head or body, or a penetrating head injury that disrupts normal brain function. Traumatic brain injury in children is a chronic disease process rather than a one-time event because symptoms may change and unfold over time, according to DeBumpis-Taylor in Breast, Muscle and Dewitt 2010.
Last in the list is a multiple disabilities. A child with a multiple disabilities has more than one condition covered by IDEA. The National Center of Educational Statistics 2018 reported for the 2016 to 2017 school year, 2% students ages 3 to 21 were identified as students multiple disabilities out of the 13% for the total population of children who receive special education services.
There are also types of disabilities provided by the Department of Education or DepEd: blind and visually impaired, deaf, orthopedically challenged, intellectual disability, learning disability, autism, multiple disability, serious emotional disorders, communication disorder, speech and language impairment, deaf, blind, and other health problems.
We rise to a great heights by a winding staircase of small steps by Francis Bacon. One can achieve success in life through education. Despite of all the challenges, an individual can reach life great heights by taking a small step at a time.